You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. All right, we're back for episode 2 of Cards to the Moon. I'm Clark from 5 Card Guys, and joining me again is Hyung and John. How's it going, guys?
What's up, guys?
What's up?
Good for you guys to join us again. So just want to quickly ask, did you guys see the fight between Logan Paul and Floyd Mayweather?
I personally didn't. I was too gazed upon the Charizard that he brought in, right? I'm just glad it was a 10. You know, that thing's a pop 3 right there. So it was good PR for BGS. So it was fun to watch.
Yeah. What you think, John?
I saw it. I mean, it was typical Mayweather avoiding hits the entire time. But originally, it was funny. The fight was going on, and you can tell it was going to end in that fashion, like they weren't going to knock each other out. And
Right.
At first, I was pretty pissed off. I was more pissed off at Mayweather because I was like, "Yo, this guy's a pro.
Yeah.
Like, just show up Jake Paul and just knock him out. Like, he's clearly tired. Just knock him out."
Yeah. Logan Paul.
Logan Paul. And then I realized at the end, I'm like, these guys are marketing geniuses, man. Like, if he were to knock out Logan Paul, there's no part 2. Like, it was like end of debate.
Right.
Logan Paul is this amateur. Like, his story is over right here. And I realized, man, these guys I feel like they're just doing this on purpose to set up something else. Like, whether Logan Paul fights somebody else or they have like a round 2, like that gravy's got to continue going. But if Logan Paul were to have lost, I don't think that the storyline would have been there, right? So I realized after the fact, I'm like, okay, these guys clearly are. It's more of a marketing play more than anything. So I mean, that's what I kind of concluded on.
Okay, makes sense to me. I didn't see the fight myself. But I did see, like, on Twitter all the photos of Logan Paul with his Charizard BGS 10 as well. And honestly, at first I thought it was photoshopped. Like, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. But it was pretty funny. Even after the press conference after the fight, one of the reporters asked him about what he was wearing around his neck, and he was just flexing. He was like proud of his BGS 10 Charizard.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Let's get into our first segment, Hobby Headlines. And today, we're going to take a deep dive into the world of grading. So I guess before we get into deep discussion, let me give a quick Cole's note of the current situation for those who aren't familiar with grading. In a nutshell, there are several third-party grading companies that determine the condition of your card. And the higher the grade, the more valuable your card can become. And as you guys know, we're talking exponentially more valuable for some of these cards, right? Now, with the boom of the hobby, collectors and card investors are realizing it's worth it to send their cards to graders to maximize their value, even like the most common base cards. So long story short, there's been a huge backlog of cards to be graded, resulting in, turnaround times of several months, even over a year in some cases, which has led to our current situation with PSA, arguably the number 1 grading company, suspending pretty much all of their grading services just to catch up on the backlog. And I believe they raised their prices for all their other services too. And we just heard, of course, we touched upon it a bit in our last episode, Beckett Grading Services, or BGS, also recently suspended their services for similar reasons to catch up on their backlog. The question is then, what are you doing now as a collector with your raw cards?
I believe PSA is caught up with their grading now. I think that's the case, but it's a tough situation for raw cards because I used to be a person that submitted a bunch of raw cards because it was affordable and the turnaround times were reasonable. But now I think the game is changing, so I'm just not submitting right now. I mean, there's options, but even BGS would be my next option. And then I guess the third option would be, is it worth SCG or, HGA
SGC.
Or SGC?
Right.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. For myself, I think we're just going to be holding, just wait it out to see what happens. I think everybody seemingly is still holding out on PSA to wait for them to open up to sort of let the cookies start to crumble from there. But yeah, for myself, I'm not sending in anything raw. Obviously, only things worth sending in are the express, right? So if you got something that really is that valuable that you're willing to pay fork over $300 or whatever the cost is. So yeah, I'm in a bit of a holding pattern as well.
Okay. Yeah, you're right, Xiang. You mentioned, I think PSA did announce recently that they caught up on their backlog, but they're still not accepting new cards except for the express level services.
Right.
Like Johnny mentioned, with $300. So, but I think they're trying to resume services July 1st, I think is their target date. So even when they do resume on July 1st, with their prices increased, and who knows what they're going to do with their different pricing tiers, like they might change that again, or do you think it's worth sending raw cards, even base cards, to PSA now? Like, do you think the game's shifted that much where you have to be more selective in what cards you are sending to PSA or to any grading company?
100%. I mean, it takes out all the equation of what's worth it and what's not worth it, right? Like a lot of those base cards, especially the paper now, I don't think it's worth, even the grading fee at some point, right? So I know, it's just a lot more difficult to, like John said, it's better off to just send, express. If you do have a, higher end card, maybe you pulled it in a break or, or whatever, bought it raw, you could send it express. So that option's always available, but I don't think it's worth sending in the base cards anymore.
Right. You think it's because the grading fees are increasing, or do you think the PSA graded base cards won't just yield that kind of return anymore like it did even in the boom of the hobby earlier this year?
Yeah, it's a supply demand, like more, you can't submit. I remember when I did submit, like, I think I submitted like 60 or 70 Tatis, and I got it in the bulk kind of like submission at like $20, I think, a pop. But, it's tough to do that now, even with someone like Tatis, because, Tatis is a little different because I think he's still worth it. But, if anything, PSA 8s, you're better off, just holding or selling the card raw at that point. And, I don't think people understand. It's not easy to get a 10. Like, I think everybody thinks like, oh, I got a raw card, I bought it off eBay and, I'm going to send this and get, all these 10s. And they don't realize, there's probably selling the raw card for a reason, at the end of the day. So it's something that, you got to really question yourself when shopping the raw market.
Sure. Mm-hmm. To that point, Hyung, like whenever I see a raw card on eBay, I always look at the seller. And if the guy has a lot of stars, like a lot of feedback, and you could tell this guy's a vet and he's posting a raw card, I automatically think there's something fishy with the card.
John knows that. We always talk about that.
Oh yeah.
So there's truth in that, huh? You think?
100%. There's ways, obviously it's no secret, but there's ways to sort of increase the odds of your raw card being a little bit better. You look at the guy's profile, you look at the other items he's selling, and if historically he only sells raw cards, then you probably have a decent chance at a pretty solid raw card, right? So there's little ways you can do.
Although I did buy an Acuna Sapphire raw for $2,000 raw. Yeah,
that's gutsy, man.
And at PSA 10. So.
Wow.
You know what? Like on the flip side, and that it was totally worth it, right? So, and I've purchased also that Hero Courtside Silver that I purchased raw, and I was just like, "There's no way purchase it." It was from Korea, actually, a buyer or a seller in Korea. So I'm like, "There's no way it's making all the way here," and I'm gonna submit it, and it comes back a 10, and sure enough, last week. I ended up getting a PSA 10. So sometimes raw does pay off, but I just don't like the odds.
But no risk, no reward, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. It'll be going back to your question though. It'll be interesting how this landscape shakes out, because as the market is, let's call a spade a spade. The market is in a crash period right now, which is okay. But But with this crash period, it's clear that people are sort of backing away from the base game and kind of sticking their money into number game. So as base gets peeled off, and as if PSA ends up, when they come back to business and they end up sticking to like the $100 price point for like an entry, future pop like 2021 flagship baseball, like the pop report's going to be low because people aren't going to be sending in paper flagship of Kalenic and paper flagship of Cabrian Hayes.
Right.
Like those cards aren't going to go in there. So there's going to be a pop, PSA 10 pop after a full year, maybe like 300. I don't know, right? So maybe in that point, a PSA 10 flagship Cabrian Hayes, it'll go up because the population is low, and then at that point, if if PSA 10 is worth $300, obviously then the economics of the whole game starts to make sense again, and you start submitting. We'll see what happens. There's multiple dynamics happening right now with like the base people pulling away from the base game and PSA coming back to service and their pricing, and it'll be interesting how this all shakes out.
For sure. Just another question for you guys then. We talked about another alternative is to submit to other grading companies other than PSA or BGS. For you guys, what will it take for you to send it to a company like SGC?
I thought about it, as an alternative, and at the end of the day, I have to ask myself, what am I doing this for? And sometimes it's a PC item, or sometimes it's an investment item, right? So if that's the case, if it's on the investment side, I'm sticking with the two personally. PSA and BGS. I think there's extreme value in BGS, in my opinion, of the two, just because there's such a price discrepancy between a gem mint, a 9.5, and a PSA 10, right? In terms of price. So yeah, I thought about submitting to other companies, but yeah, it's tough for me because the value doesn't hold, right? And that's what I need from an investment standpoint, or if I want to be able to trade in my card or flip my card for a profit, I need to maximize my revenues. In terms of a PC card, I like the new colorful slabs that like HGA is making, for instance. Sure. And we talked about, I believe there's other companies up and coming that are, producing some slabs now that I believe that aren't graded, and they're more like color match, for instance. And I think that's interesting too as an alternative for PC items. Because really you don't care at that point if you're, if you're kind of locking it in the safe, right? So I think it all depends for me. But you, Johnny?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. I drank the PSA Kool-Aid even for my PC cards. I love seeing the PSA 10. I've bought into the hype. So even when I think about wanting to send some personal items to SGC, I mean, I feel bad for SGC. Like, they took a huge hit in the last 12 months as new people came in. Like, their company grades really well. Like, you could very much argue that their grading scale, the way they grade, how tough they are, is on par with the big boys. It's just too bad that from an investment standpoint, that's really what most people care about right now. The value is just not there. So it's really tough to send in cards to SGC. But I will say it'll be interesting because, I mean, PSA's head honcho just came out this past week and said, kind of, responded to a whole bunch of questions that I think a lot of people are having. And he in one of his statements, he said, they still grade the exact same way, like nothing has changed. But I think it's pretty clear when you watch YouTube videos and you watch people getting their submissions back that, I mean, to me, it looks like the grading has toughened up considerably. There's a lot more nines flooding the market. So it'll be interesting to see, with PSA grading a lot tougher, the BGS 9.5, a lot of people use BGS because you feel like, okay, if it's a 9 on a PSA, I feel like I can get that 9.5 in BGS. I've got that chance. So this might open up some doors for BGS to kind of make a small comeback. So it'll be interesting to see how this shakes out. Like I was saying before, like everybody here is sort of like in this sort of standstill waiting game, and even from the grading perspective, we're sort of in this waiting game to see what exactly happens with these companies.
Sure.
What happens to their brand value? What happens to your investments? And so.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, personally, I like, and this might just be me, but I like the look of BGS 95s better than PSA 10s. But I recognize
You're
the
crazy,
value.
Clark. You're crazy, Clark.
Yeah.
I can't be.
I can't do it, man.
I can't be the only one. Come on.
No, man. I'm a
thicker,
collector.
It just looks more sturdy.
I'll give it that. Like I do like the solid glass feel, because that's what I like about one touches, like that.
I love it.
I love that. But I'm a collector first and foremost, more than an investor, and I hate looking at 9.5. I hate 9.5. I want to see
that.
10.
I will say that SGC slabs are like they are underrated. Like I don't want to sound like like I think they do a great job. I think their slabs look phenomenal. I just see how the market reacts. Yeah, it's clean.
Yeah.
I know Sports Card Investor kind of did an inside take on SGC. They kind of took you through a tour and stuff, and you could tell their branding is is on point. Everything is. They're doing everything right. And I think the power of the PSA brand is just so overpowering, and that it just gets overlooked, right? To me, it's like you look at a pre-2018 PSA slab, they're ugly. Like, they're so ugly, right? And sometimes BGS slabs aren't the best looking as well, to be honest. But I do agree, Clark, that BGS does have this more sturdy feel, or I guess a luxe feel to it, like how a slab should be. That's my only downside with PSA, but yeah.
So for me, I actually thought about sending things to SGC primarily because of the turnaround times. Even when PSA gets started, like, who knows how long it'll take for you or me or anyone submitting to get their cards back. I think they're still going to have to work things out. And I think I saw somewhere, it might have been on Twitter, where they compared certain values of graded cards from different companies. So for example, SGC 10 might be about 60, 70, maybe 80% of a PSA 10 of that same card. So you do get less value of the same card, even if you get a SGC 10 grade, right? Compared to a PSA 10. But if you can get the SGC 10 card back to you sooner, like within a month, I think they have a faster guarantee time. Can you think of a scenario where I'm investing in, for example, Tyler Hero? I want it graded quickly so I can flip it quickly, even if it's going to get me 70% of what the PSA 10 value might be, because that eliminates a certain level of risk, right? Like, if I got the card back a year later and we see what Tyler Hero has done in the past year, it's obviously value has decreased since last year's playoff, right? So you I think for me, it really depends on what the card is and how quickly I want to flip, even if I get less value for it.
Right. Makes sense.
So yeah, I think I might submit some of my cards to SGC just to see, what I can get for it quickly.
I will say this. I think the what they were saying was that the quality control that people are submitting, they're just submitting a lot more cards, like without really, doing their due diligence in terms of how it looks, right? So you have a lot of new people coming into the hobby, and then they just submit whatever card without really going through it. And you're seeing a lot, lower gem rates, right? Does that mean PSA standards have changed, or has the standard of the regular people submitting, have they been less pickier, let's just say, right, at what they're submitting, right? Especially at that bulk price. At one point, I think there was bulk pricing and the hobby was getting hot. People are sending off every single card possible, right? Like I think one of my buddies, one of our buddies sent in his cousin's hockey card, just to get it graded, right? So it's like when you're in that kind of price range, you're just sending whatever in to get graded, right? So the price the price is changed now. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think my personal problem with SGC, I'm with you guys. Like I like the tuxedo look. I am a fan, but when I first started paying attention again to like the hobby and prices and eBay and all that, I mean, SGC was starting to climb back in, let's say March of 2020 when COVID was popping off. And I think BGS was right around the sort of like 75% to the PSA 10 value mark, BGS 95. SGC started to climb, from what I noticed, upwards of 60%. So they're actually doing really well in terms of branding.
Right.
Now, speaking present day, man, I'm seeing some SGC values at like 30% of PSA 10, 25% of PSA 10.
Oh, really? That low?
Yeah, it's low, man. Like and I mean, if you try to price it high, I'm sure it's really hard to move it, right? So that's the part that's difficult now is, there's opportunity to get the card back real quick. But you got to really analyze, let's say LaMelo Ball, if you want to put into right now, there's an opportunity because if you're going to put in a LaMelo Ball Prism, it's going to cost you $300. It's going to come back. You probably sell it at 800. SGC, I don't know, Clark, you might know better, but I don't know what the turnaround time is, 20, 30 business days.
Right. Yeah.
You submit it, $30 US, get it back. You could probably sell for 250, 300, maybe 400. And then the profit margin might be very similar, right? So, yeah, I mean, I don't think you're wrong, but right now probably the opportunities are in new products that are hot, that are hype. Some of the older stuff, it's tough, man. I really want to see SGC's value kind of come up for me personally, before I make a move.
Yeah, for sure. That's a fair point. Like you got to, at the end of the day, you got to do your research, right? You got to see what the comps are, with the SGC 10 versus the PSA 10. And if it's close enough, and like you mentioned, you factor in the grading costs. Like if you can save $270 just from grading, and you factor that into your final sale price, you got to do the math too, right? So do your research, do the math. If it makes sense, I say go for it.
It's a good formula right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll say this though, before we get into the next topic. We talked about in our last episode whether the soft sports card market is at the beginning of some kind of implosion or whether it's a strong market correction. I think we all agreed that it's a market correction, or we're certainly really hoping that's the case. But I think the fact that there's this backlog in grading and there's still this high demand for collectors wanting their cards graded, just for me, it shows that it's a market correction, that there's still demand for sports cards, right? So
absolutely. There's always going to be a market because if you think about it, you got Vegas, with Las Vegas, I'm saying, sports betting. You got an era of sports and entertainment and social media, right? Like to me, that's all you need, really. And you have the I guess the amount of people that, or the demand that's needed, right? The market cap. And it's increasing. There's more and more people, and that's why, I always, harp on the rare cards, the low pop cards, go after those, and you're laughing because the supply and demand will always be there for those, right?
Absolutely.
I don't know if you guys saw like Jeff Wilson's latest sports card collector YouTube clip, but he did a little snippet at the beginning talking about what he felt about the current market correction / crash. He made an amazing point in what he was saying when he was at the Dallas Card Show of, everybody talking, the biggest conversation around everybody he heard, or like, opening his ear up, it was all about the market crash or the market correction. What everyone's opinion was, it's because of this, it's because of that, it's because of PSA grading, it's because of, every reason we've all heard. And Jeff made a great point, and he said, I think one of the biggest reasons, and this is a human element of this, is it's the fear. It's literally all the talking heads, all you guys talking about it, about the uncertainty, where it's going, prices are going down, and nobody is making a move. No one wants to hold the bag. Everybody's scared. We got a slew of fearful collectors and investors, and in turn that makes for a soft market, right? So that was an excellent point by Jeff, and I thought it was a great observation.
Yeah, I can see that for sure.
And that's why it's important to, remember, always collect what you love at the end of the day. Yeah. Right?
100%.
Like, I think you get yourself into trouble when you start, chasing for the latest and greatest, and you think this is a money-making thing, instead of actually doing, like, homework and be like, this is, something that I'm really going after. And it's not like buying every single card in sight, right? Like you're literally, targeting cards. You're doing research on a card. You're seeing how, rare it is. You're seeing, potentially if like what game that was, stuff like that. Where like, for instance, the Acuna bat down, like that his first flagship is his Series 2 card. And that image is all his update image, I guess, is from basically his first at bat, his first swing. So like to me, that's cool as a collector. And the true hobbyists know, they've been, ask the true hobbyists who've been, around before the whole market boom, and they'll tell you it's nothing we haven't seen before, and it's just at a bigger scale because there's so much alternative investment money coming in, in the market, right? And there was a point in time where, Wall Street or, portfolios were coming in and we're just like, what is going on, right? So I still think there's a bright future because, it's sports and entertainment. Like as long as, you have sports and entertainment and then you have Las Vegas, what more do you need for a supply and demand, thing like a sports cards, right? Especially when it was like Gary Vee talks about, things kind of repeat itself. Our kids are now growing up and starting to, cards are getting, and you want to collect, you want to do that with your kids and stuff like that, right? So it's something that's kind of on repeat. And I think, with the future of technology and, specifically Ethereum cryptocurrency, I think they're going to go hand in hand one day. Who knows what it's going to look like though, right? So that's just my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see. But I love your point about collecting what you love. Like you can't go wrong when you do that. And I do that personally for 99% of the time. The 1% was when I was chasing Manuel Margot. That didn't work out for me.
We all have one.
Gregory Polanco, that didn't work out for me. So I learned my lesson. Collect what you love. All right. That might be a good spot to go into our next segment. We did this last week, and we'll do it again this week. It's called Fast Five. So for those who missed Fast Five last week, we're just going to go through 5 players, and then I'll ask if you're going to buy, if you're going to sell, or if you're going to hold on any of these players. All right. So first player on the Fast Five today is Tyler Hero. I mean, last NBA playoffs, he was the man, right? Like when the Miami Heat went all the way to the NBA championship, a lot of us, including myself, invested in Tyler Hero. I had a silver prism, which I flipped, and now I have a green prism that I sent off to PSA. I'm still waiting for that one, so that might not turn out so great. But that's what I was talking about. SGC, if I could get a quick turnaround and I flipped it a few months ago, that would have been amazing. But yeah, what do you guys think about Tyler Hero?
I'm a buy. I've been buying Tyler Hero. I just believe in, the kid, his talent. And I think, you look at, just a young, in 20, he's 21 now, 2 years into the league. People say that he had a down year this year, which, he was inconsistent. But at the end of the day, look at any comparable second year stat. You look at Tatum's second year, his first year, second year, similar progression, right? So for me, it's still young, right? He's still young. He's marketable. He has a big following on social media. I think there's a lot of upside. His prices were already high, so it's definitely not a sell. It's a buy for me.
Oh man, I think overall I'm a buy. I'm a little I love Hero. I mean, Hyung and I talked about I followed Hero since high school, and like just watching his game, I knew right from the beginning. I'm like, this guy, he's a killer, and I believe in the talent. The guy was like a monster gym rat. I think that's what made Jimmy Butler like him so much in that first year. Last year, I think the COVID run. But this year, man, like I don't know if like everybody knows this, but he had like a huge off-court distraction. Like first of all, he hooked up with that Instagram model, and I heard that he started to focus so much on his growing his own brand, growing his name, growing his social media accounts, that it started to really become a distraction to the point where teammates had to have sit downs with him, and also the management had to have they called him up to like the head office to talk to him, to kind of like straighten him up. So I still believe in Hero. I still think he's a buy. I'm just a little, I gotta see him grow up a bit and make sure that the gym rat of him, the guy who loves basketball, kind of comes back into the fold.
Good points. I am going to say sell. Yeah, I the off court stuff, and I know they're all rumors, or they're, I don't know what's true and what's not. Anyone could write anything about him.
That's true.
I want to see him prove himself, and then I'll buy in, even if it's at a slight premium. So that's me. And I bought Hero early too. I loved his swag. We're talking about basketball players with swag. Like, they have value because they're so marketable, right? And Tyler Hero is definitely that guy. I think he signed a Nike deal early on too, and that's probably another contributing factor of things getting to his head maybe. But I want to see him prove it on the court before I go back in with him. So sell for me. All right, second. This guy I was 100% wrong about before he started his rookie season this year. LaMelo Ball. Like, at the beginning, I thought everyone's going to buy and lose their money because there's so much hype going into it. But after seeing him on the court, I was wrong about his skills, right? I was wrong about what he can contribute to a young team like the Hornets. So, yeah, what do you guys think of LaMelo Ball? Buy, sell, hold?
I would sell, only because I've seen the Zion. I was part of that Zion hype. Seeing at release and seeing where his prices went, and is it sustainable? And then you factor in all the how many people were ripping and how many people are breaking, spending money, because if you hit, you're selling, right? So I think that was driving prices, and once people lose interest, I think prices are going to take a hit again, right? It's just that peak interest. 2021 Prism came out. There was that hype. Hobby boxes are ridiculous, so no one's ripping. But I believe, when people get them graded, LaMelo graded, and I think his prices are going to take a little dip before they, go back up as he progresses in his career. The talent is there, no doubt, 100%. I just think it's a bad time to buy right now just because you're in the middle of peak season for Prism release, so I'm a sell.
100% agree. On both counts, actually, Clark. Like, I'm with you, man. Like, watching LaMelo since high school, I really didn't think, number one, I wasn't even sure if this guy would get drafted. Then he was getting projected to be really high, and I was like, no, that's a huge mistake. And he got into the league, and he showed me completely wrong. I love LaMelo Ball for the future, but I don't touch anything first year hype. The prices are way too wild, especially in basketball. So 100% a sell. I'll probably get into LaMelo sometime late next year, but right now it's for sure a sell.
Yeah. And I think I'm in the same boat. The prices are still a bit high, and it's, he's only been in the league 1 year, but man, I'm tempted. I'm tempted to buy.
We've all been guilty of it.
Man.
What's his base selling for right now? PSA 10.
900 maybe.
Yeah, way too high. Like, to me, it's like, come on,
you're
you're talking Luka. Like, you know what I mean? It's like,
sure,
it's way too inflated in my opinion. And the pop count is way low because, and that's what they're using, right? Low pop, right? It's pop 20. Wait until it's like pop 10,000. Well, I don't think it'll be that high, but like, it's just too high in my opinion. There's a lot more better buys.
Yeah, definitely agree with you on the base cards. But if there's a higher end LaMelo Ball, I don't know if this is even a reality, like a couple thousand, 3,000. I don't know, maybe it's a long-term hold.
Yeah, the prism numbered, I think, it's I would say it wouldn't be a gamble. It would be like, do you really believe in the kid at that point, right? That's what. Yeah, I'm okay with those purchases. You know me. I love those high-end purchases because the prices could, go anywhere you want it to be at that point, right?
It could go crazy for sure. All right, nice. Next player on our Fast Five is Serena Williams, and I bring her up because I think her net pro rookie card went as high as $2,500, $2,500.
Wow!
During the hobby hype, right, when everyone was trying to think of what the next big sport is or next big generational athlete is, and there's no doubt Serena Williams is one of, if not the best female tennis player in the world. But her card is one of those cards that got caught in the hobby hype. Went from $2,500 to, I think last I saw it sold for $250 for a PSA 10. Even at those prices, do you think you're investing in a card like a Net Pro Serena Williams rookie?
Me personally, I think long term, I think it's a great buy. Some of her prices are really cheap as well. Because to me, it's like, yeah, the hype was there, and then it's slowly dying down because everything's kind of fizzling out. But the pop reports as time goes on, they're not going to change. You can't. And as people say this, have the same thinking patterns, like, hey, you know what? I'll lock this one in the safe. She is a GOAT at the end of the day, right? She's one of the best tennis players, and what she's accomplished already, at the age she's accomplished is like so incredible. All the accomplishments that she had. So for me, I think long term, don't buy thinking that you're gonna make a ton flipping. You're probably gonna lose, to be honest. Right. But I think as time goes on, and you see it with all cards, like they start fading away. You don't see too many of PSA 10 cards, even Topps Chrome, LeBron James. Like the pop count's out there, but you don't see too many available, right? So I think maybe fast forward a few years when this whole kind of craziness dies down, I think it might be a good investment long term. Yeah.
I actually checked the historical sales of this card. There was, I don't know if this is a real sale, but there was at the peak of the vintage run in second week of Feb, there was a sale for $14.5K on this card.
Wow.
And there's a bunch of other sales that hit around 75 to 9,000, which is insane.
Nuts.
Yeah, it's insane.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what to feel about this. Serena Williams is going to be one of the all-time greatest female tennis, no question, if not already is. Mm-hmm. I just don't know enough about Net Pro. Like, I don't know enough about the product. I don't know the production runs. I don't know anything about it. So I'm a little weary. It's kind of similar to, I don't know if you guys know, but F1 had a production of, it's called Grid. Similar to Net Pro. It's sort of like a boutique card company. And I was just looking up like Michael Schumacher rookie from like, I don't know when it was. It was like 1999 or something like that. But very similar look. It might possibly be the same company. I don't know. But I just don't know about these companies. So I'm a little worried. But from Hyung's point, if you're the type of investor for long term, if you're not like a flip it now, like take your $250 and you need a quick flip, I don't think Serena's the right move. But long term, spend $250 on one of the GOATs and just lock it in a safe. It's really not even that much of a risk. It's not that much money. So I think, ultimately, all that being said, probably a buy depending on what type of investor you are. And lastly, if you're a collector, like you got to like Serena Williams, right? Like if you like Serena Williams, then you can't go wrong. The price is super low. So yeah.
So buy.
Yeah, I'll say I'm a cautious buy. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm a buy too. I love GOAT players, and like we all agree that she's going to be a GOAT in the tennis world. And I think like once her legacy is cemented, I don't see it going any lower than what it is now. Like $250 for a PSA 10 Net Pro. And
yeah.
I would imagine like there weren't many tennis rookie cards of Serena Williams. It's not like modern players now where there's 5 variations of the same card, same rookie card, right?
There's no tie-dye?
If there was, I would love to have one. But it's a buy, and I agree with you 100%. A buy and hold for long term.
Yeah.
All right, next guy is Connor McDavid, and I bring him up because there's not a lot of love for hockey cards in general, but news alert, we are all Canadian boys, so hockey is a big thing here.
For sure.
But Connor McDavid, like, when I see him play, he's like a video game for me, like the way he skates, the way he could just, it's like, the video hockey games where you press a certain button to boost. Like, I feel like that's how McDavid skates.
Yeah.
And I just feel like he's one of those generational talents in the NHL. I don't know. Does the softer or weaker hockey market scare you off in investing in hockey cards, even in a player as great as Connor McDavid?
I'm a buy for sure right now. I've been telling John, we've been looking for some Connor McDavids for me, but that's the problem too. Is like there's not too many options, right? Like when you deal with hockey, I even like when I rip hockey, I'm like falling asleep too. But that's one reason why I don't love hockey. But like
Right.
there's not a lot of options, but I do believe that you're running into the generational talent, right? Like you're not gonna come across these guys at affordable prices soon. I think his prices kind of went down a bit, but yeah, I think buy the dip right now because I don't think prices are going to get any cheaper because the hockey market is strong still. I think it's gonna grow too. It's only gonna go up, and look at one of the I know it's a different situation with the Gretzky's, but just it could get up there pricing, right? So and he's the type of talent that can carry over through generations, and kids are gonna remember his name. So I'm a buy.
100% buy. 100%. No question, man. I think if you ever wanted to get into Connor McDavid, like for those that don't know that much about hockey, I mean, like everybody knows Connor McDavid. This guy is a absolute generational talent. He's all world. He will end his career with, I'm sure, Stanley Cups. I'm sure multiple trophies, like hardware. So I'm 100% a buy. It's a perfect storm right now with the market crashing, and with Connor McDavid exiting the playoffs the way that they did, and a lot of investors kind of being worried, oh, maybe this guy is not like Crosby, maybe he doesn't have that winning gene. I don't think he knows how to win. I don't think Edmonton's ever going to win. Like there's a lot of doubt that's happening. His card dropped, I think by like $1,000 overnight.
No way.
Yeah, so I think I haven't been his Young Guns. So his Young Guns was probably at like 4,500. I could be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure literally the next day it started to sell for 35, 33, 32 down to 3,000. It might even have gone sub 3,000 right now. So this off season, if there's ever a time to get into Connor McDavid, 100%. If you ever thought about it, I think this off season is the time. It's just such a perfect storm for his card to be at an all-time low.
Do you think he'll actually win a cup with the Oilers?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah. coming from a Leafs fan, like with the Oilers, their top two guys, you know what you're getting. Him and Draisaitl, they produce in the playoffs. They produce. When you look at the team, it was the surrounding pieces, a lot of missing pieces. So at least they know where to build. They've got the two stars, and they can start to put the pieces. They've got a whole bunch of problems like dead contracts like Chase on and like like I can't remember the one guy's name, but anyways, they got a bunch of dead contracts. So I think once they clean that up, at least they have there's a view. But for Leaf fans, man, like I don't know. So I think Edmonton's if their if their management does it correctly, they're gonna definitely win some Stanley Cups.
I'm not sure he's gonna win a cup with the Oilers, to tell you the truth, but I don't think it matters. Like he's such a talent that, like you guys were kind of alluding to, like even non-hockey players or non-hockey fans have a good chance of knowing who McDavid is. But the other thing I'm bullish on is with the NHL, I don't know if you guys heard, I think Disney's taking over the NHL broadcast rights starting this year or next year. And Disney has a good reputation of being able to market the sport. Right. So I'm pretty excited to see what Disney will do. And I think if they market right, and especially our American friends, they get into hockey a bit more, then we'll see a definite climb in the hockey card market.
Yeah. Great point, man. Great point.
All right, last one is Jared Kelenic. And I bring him up because he's one of those prospects, and we see it all the time, right? Like a overly hyped prospect. People are excited to see him. And when they get called up, he just doesn't perform in his first month or two of their MLB debut. And we just heard Kelenic just got demoted, I guess, back to the minors to work on his swing, and no doubt he's going to be called out later on in the season, right? But so what are you doing with a guy like Jared Kelenic or a top prospect like him?
I personally don't own any Kelenic, but I would, if I haven't checked prices recently, but if you're down, I would hold because there is hope. But I mean, if you're up, I would sell because I think you're going to be able to get his price is, given that, he doesn't do anything ridiculous in the next, 6 months coming back and, figuring things out. But it's a tough game. Like I said, that's the most difficult part is, prospecting. That's a whole different game. And that's part of the reason why, like a lot of people ask, yeah, why don't you have too many, prospect cards? It's like, well, it's a different game, right? So for me, it's tough to kind of, from an investment standpoint, kind of go in on a player that I guess has no at bats. Like for me, I would like to see kind of like that first year, see how they go. Even second year, you see a guy like Keston Hiura, right? Had a phenomenal freshman year, and then he can't, he's hitting with a wet newspaper, right? Like. Sorry. I don't know if you guys get that reference, but it's used in the baseball terminology, but that's exactly what it is, right? But yeah, he's just struggling right now, and it takes a lot to stay in the big leagues, and it's not an easy feat. So for me to be investing in, someone like Kelenic, he has upside. He has a lot of upside, but, so does a lot of people, and other people in the big leagues that have been producing results, with the same kind of tool set, right? You look at a guy like Cody Bellinger. It's like, how do you make sense of, Kelenic being a similar price to, I don't know if I'm right on this, but I would imagine they're not going to be too far off because Bellinger's prices are down, right? So it's like someone who's, hit 47 home runs in the big leagues and, had a monster season and a bright upside, a 5-tool player, can't hold that price. What does that tell you for the future of, that potential card, right? That's just kind of like a perspective. I'm not saying, one way or the other, but if you're selling, I would sell.
Well, you've played pro ball before. Like, do you think, compared to other sports, do you think being a rookie in MLB is significantly more difficult to make it, to establish yourself?
It will always be the easy part, and I say easy, but it's not easy, is making the big leagues. Staying in the big leagues is actually the hard part. You ask every single big league, every veteran, everybody who's played at that level, and they'll tell you the same thing. It's like making the big leagues was the easy part, and that's a small fraction of a percentage of people who play baseball, let alone people who get to stay, because you have a 25-man roster, right? I mean, that's not, and then your 40-man rosters, you're deep. So I mean, there's not too many roster spots. So yeah, but I think a lot of people struggle their second year because they're not foreign anymore, right? They've had a full season now. Pitchers could actually see video and have advanced scouting reports on people, and that's exactly what happens to people like Keston Hiura. Is you start exposing kind of like their weaknesses, and you stick with their weakness. These guys are the best at the highest level, right? So they're able to repeat, pitches consistently and be able to, throw a slider on the inside back foot, so like, to me, it's tough from an investment standpoint. I look at it in that aspect, and I say, it's a tough game. That's why I say collect what you love, and you can't go wrong. Because if you're trying to guess on somebody's career, and you're thinking that you're going to get rich off this, it's a bad recipe for disaster. And that's another reason why I do like the more kind of like GOAT type players, because you could never go wrong with them, right? So
I don't know enough. I'm not into any baseball scouting. I'll default to Hyung on baseball scouting. If you talk hockey prospects, I can talk hockey prospects, but not baseball. I don't know enough about Kelenic, but if you are somebody who believes in Kelenic, believes in the talent. I'm going to go the opposite way. I'm going to say he's a buy. And I say that because Series 2 is about to come out. The market is on a downturn. The player just got sent down. So this could be actually a good opportunity to buy into some numbered parallel flagship of Kelenic. Could be. I don't know the pricing yet. Obviously, we'll see. But I'm going to, if you're a Kelenic believer, I'm going to say this could be a buy.
Yeah, I could see both points for sure. When I think about Kalanick, I always think that, and I'm not comparing him to Mike Trout, but Mike Trout had a bad first half season when he came into the big leagues, right?
Yeah.
And then, then he turned it up, and he had that prospect pedigree. So, and Kalanick certainly has that hype behind him, and he's, on everyone's top 5, top 10 scouting report coming up. So obviously not everyone's going to hit MLB pitching right off the bat. It takes a time of adjustment. And for Kalanick, it's only been a month. I think there's still potential there. I guess what it comes down to is how low does his card value go. So if, for example, if it goes down to, like, I think the last BGS 9.5 Bowman Chrome rookie auto sold for about $650. If it goes down to 400 or 500, I might be interested just to kind of, buy a couple, right? But for every Mike Trout, there's a Kevin Moss or
somebody was throwing that name, Kevin Moss, on the forums, on Blowout forums. Shout out to Blowout forums.
Nostalgic.
They're saying they're trying to compare Juan Soto with Kevin Moss. I'm like, whoa, offside. Whoa. I get it. Like, Kevin Moss was a big time product. I remember his Upper Deck. His rookie card, right? Like, that was a big pull. But yeah, that was
Todd
funny.
Van Poppel.
Todd Van Poppel. There you go. Love it.
Awesome. All right, we'll go on to our last segment of this podcast, and it's a new one that we're going to introduce. We're calling it Pick One. And in this segment, I'm going to throw out 2 names, and you decide which one would you rather invest in or which one would you rather buy. So first one, let's go to the NBA. Trae Young versus Jason Tatum.
Oh.
And we talked about this last episode.
That's tough.
I know where Johnny stands, so Johnny, why don't you start?
I'm a collector first and foremost, so I like collecting who I like. Mm-hmm. And I like, you can't really go wrong here, but I like Jason Tatum. I like his killer instinct. I like the type of player he is. I think the type of player he is going to win championships soon. I like Tatum, but I mean, Trae is proving this playoff. I think that's the one thing that was kind of missing in Trae is he's on a losing team. People don't know how he's going to perform in playoffs. They don't know if he's a winner, and he's starting to show it. So I think, I could see a lot of people picking Trae over Tatum right now, but I'm Tatum.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm going. This is tough for me because I am a Trae Young fan, but I do like Jason Tatum. But I will say this: I like shopping for Trae Young cards better because Tatum cards are boring, in my opinion. So if it's because I think Trae's select is amazing. Like his concourse base.
That's an interesting point.
Is a beautiful card. The parallels are cheap. They're beautiful.
Right,
I love his Prism. I think his Prism is a fantastic card too. I don't love Tatum's select. I think they did a horrible job with select, and everybody can agree that 2018 is when they started really picking it up with select in terms of the design. Right. So for me, it's like I like Tatum. I just don't love his cards. So it's like I like shopping for Trae. I think his prices are cheaper right now, so I think Trae's the better buy.
And I'm going to agree.
That's a great point.
I'm going to agree with Hyung. I'm going with Trae. I'm kind of the opposite. I like Trae Young as a player better because he's got the swag. He's more exciting, and Atlanta Hawks are going all the way this year.
Clark's drinking that Kool-Aid. Damn.
I want to see if you guys got a reaction out of that. But hey, they beat the Sixers game 1. Come on.
Yeah.
It's true.
All right, our next pick one. This is tough, I think. Ronald Acuna Jr. Or Fernando Tatis Jr.
I already knew this.
Oh, damn.
This is gonna kill me because this
Which
is
junior are you going with?
Oh, man.
I'm going with Fernando Tatis Jr. Here's why.
What?
I know it's crazy because I'm a huge Acuna fan. I'm the biggest Acuna fan. The only reason is because Tatis speaks English. Seriously, it's important to be the face of baseball. You got to speak English, and that's one thing Ronnie was lacking. And I think he's starting to pick that up because I believe that he's doing more interviews in English, and stuff because he realizes contracts do matter, and little things like that do matter. But I'm saying Fernando Tatis because he has a father figure that's been there, but not only that, he is generational talent plus, a $300+ million guy at 21 years old or whatever he is, 22, I think now. But to me, he's the face of baseball. I'm unfortunately gonna say Tatis, but it hurts me to even say that. But and Johnny knows that. That's why he's saying wow. He knows how much.
Wow, I know.
He didn't think I was gonna say that, but yeah, I'm a Tatis right now. Yeah.
Those are good reasons. What about you, Johnny?
Man, if you were to present Acuna and Tatis, it's literally those small minor things that's gonna make the difference in who you pick. There's no wrong here. I picked Tatis because I personally he's one of my favorite players currently to watch. So that's the only reason I picked Tatis. But in terms of talent, swag, tools, these guys are the next, monster. I mean, they're already proving it in year 3? Like these guys are absolute monsters.
Yeah, for sure.
It's Tatis by a hair, and it's only because he's one of my favorites.
Fair enough. I'm going to buck the trend. I'm going Acuna because for all those reasons you mentioned, Johnny, like when it's that close, they all have talent, swag, all the things I love in a baseball player. The deciding factor for me is I think Acuna is less likely to get injured playing baseball. And we've already seen Tatis goes all out, and Acuna goes all out too, but Tatis really goes all out with his swing and everything that he does. And I'm nervous, man. Tatis signed that mega contract, and I think Acuna signed like the year before. Yeah, and it wasn't. It wasn't great. I think he's got something to play for. So Acuna, all the way.
Yeah, from an investment standpoint, I will admit though, I feel like if both these players end up being neck and neck, like into the Hall of Fame, like career trajectory, I think Acuna is the better one because Hyung mentioned this like a billion times, but the bat down. That image is going to become one of the most iconic, like modern baseball cards.
I agree.
And it's super limited. It's only the bat down, and then you got the sapphire, right? So from an investment standpoint in collecting rookies, man, that bat down is too monstrous.
It's iconic for sure. All right, our last pick one challenge of today is, and we're going to go to soccer. Lionel Messi versus Cristiano Ronaldo. Who are you going with?
Oh man, yeah, that's also a tough one. I'm gonna go Ronaldo, only because I have no good reason, to be honest. I have no good reason because I do like Messi too, but I think Ronaldo is just the more marketable guy, right? So.
Yeah, I got the boring answer here, but Hyung took what I was gonna say. I'm gonna pick. It's neck and neck. I love both, but just following. I mean, I'm not a huge soccer guy, but Ronaldo's kind of on that same plane of like Tatis, where he's just got that
the whole package,
marketability.
For sure.
Yeah, like the looks, the swag. He's on social media. Like I pick Cristiano Ronaldo. I mean, but it's
And we're gonna go for a clean sweep here for this exact same reasons. Ronaldo, I think, has the most Instagram followers. in the history of Instagram.
That's crazy.
No way.
Number one. My wife was asking the other day, who has the most followers on Instagram? And we looked it up. It's Cristiano Ronaldo.
No way. That is crazy. So, what's it at? How many followers is he? Do you know?
Man.
Is it like
check, but
10+ million we're talking about? More?
It's got to be 10 plus.
295 million.
10 million. Jeez. Yeah.
How's that even possible?
So to me,
Damn.
You look at that, that's impacting a society. Like you look back, you had some pull in society. If you have 295, that's like that's ridiculous. Oh my god.
And Messi has 215 million. So, he's still got a size.
It's neck and neck, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Jeez.
But Ronaldo's number one on Instagram, and I just believe he's more marketable. But, as a player, I love Messi. Like, even I like Messi more than Ronaldo. Just watching him play is amazing. All right. So that wraps up pick one. That actually wraps up our podcast. We're looking to do this every week, publishing on Tuesdays.
Sounds awesome.
Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU at Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.